you wouldn't organize a panel, have only one woman, and have that question addressed on women's
honestly,
issues.
you're right. And the thing is, I'm glad you brought that up. Even before that question, I was not really sure, because the thing is, I just felt like, is women empowerment the only question I can ask Mr. Aravinda? So that's something I thought about. I do agree. Yes.
Actually, I'm not meaning to point you. This
No,
is typical.
no,
This
trust me.
happens generally.
And this is, and just believe me, this is what we want to have a honest discussion.
Yeah.
And that's how we can be
Right.
different. So feel free to
Right,
say
and
anything.
so in that respect, I mean, the second point I wanted to raise is that every issue is a women's
Yes,
issue.
yes.
Land and water and livelihood, these are probably the most intense
Sure.
issues that women are facing, especially with the new economic policy making access to food, water, and land all the more difficult. Women are the first to face the brunt of this. So what NRIs can do is to become more aware of this, become more aware of the kind of policies that are being promoted as good for India, good for business, good for shining. Is this really good for India? Is it good for the 1%, or is this good for India as a whole? Can we envision a development policy that will be good for India as a whole? And, not for women, for men, for Adivasis, for people, that you shouldn't need to be in the 1% or even the top 50%. Everyone should have access to basic needs and to fulfill their aspirations for a good life. So there's a lot of education that we need to do. We need to educate ourselves about the vision of development that can make this possible. So this is just a plug for AID, so you can hear more about that if you join AID. And then a few specific things. One is the issue of menstruation, which is something that I work on personally in the village. This is one of the first, this is one of the major messages that girls get at the time of menstruation, that somehow they're not as good, your body is defective, something's wrong, uh-oh, don't do this, don't do that, somebody might, something bad might happen if somebody touches you. It's an untouchability that is specific to women, not recognized as such, somehow excused and brushed under the rug. And let me tell you, one thing NRIs can do is stop excusing it. Because you don't know how many times I have received forwards of articles in praise of menstrual untouchability. And it's ancient wisdom and all of this nonsense. I don't know if any of you caught the last issue of The Daily Show by Jon Stewart, but
you're talking about that.
He used a more colorful term, but he said that we should always have a nonsense meter, sharp and sensitive, so that we can identify, who's trying to send nonsense our way. This is something that he did rigorously for 16 years, and now he's retired, so it's up to us. And this information about women's bodies and specifically about menstruation is an area where I think NRIs can have a great role to oppose the nonsense that's being circulated. The third thing I'd like to recommend is that you think about women's work and women's wages and livelihood issues. Women are facing the brunt of the unfair wage system globally. I mean, probably also in Morgantown, it may be there. So be sensitive to it. Be aware of what are the wage situations. If you buy something, very likely it was made by a woman. What were her working conditions? What are the conditions? What are the wages and working conditions, environmental conditions where where the unit is operating? Is it a home business? Is it a factory? We can find out about these things, and we can make a positive difference personally in seeing that women have a fair chance in the workplace.
Ms. Anand, one last question. Do you have any information regarding the wage inequality between men and women if you compare with India and US? Do you know approximately how much?
You mean men and women in the US? I believe currently women earn about 70 cents to the dollar in the US. In India, minimum wage is supposed to be around 120 for each, but in practice, it's not. Except in a government program,
yes.
I mean, on the field, people who are paying under the table, it's never equal. It may be half.
Okay,
Yeah.
Here it's 70 cents to $1.
That's
Okay,
just-
good.
I just want to add one point.
Yes.
Whenever any kind of crimes are committed in India, politicians conveniently, without addressing the problem, they just say dress. So the most important thing is whether the girl is kind of fully dressed or any other modern kind of dress, the crime would be committed. So the root cause of the problem or the crime lies with the person rather than this. So there were many, I should not being towards any religion or something. There were some religious leaders who imposed a ban on Sania
So,
Mirza.
Satish, I think we will be discussing that as part of our, one of the questions as we discussed.
Okay.
So that will make that as part of that.
I want to add
Okay.
something to women empowerment.
Mhm.
I've been working in aid for 3 years now, and I've been seeing many projects in rural India and how they have been implemented. One of the easiest way, if you want to really put education into a family for a rural village, is empower the mother or the sister. Because it's very easy if you try to empower the mother in a small family in a rural village, everything in the family is set very easily. That's what I have been, I think, that's what I have been looking
Sure.
for the past 3 years. If we put little stress on in a family, the mother or the sisters or the girl members of the family, I think it will be very easy for family to settle.
Sure.
That's
Sure.
what I've seen.
Thank you, Satish and Savan. So I think one person responded. So before closing the topic, if you could quickly present your thoughts.
Yeah, so I generally want to comment about women empowerment. It's like, it's not that I'm for or against, it's not, I don't want to say that Indian women are not empowered. Every time the empowerment is increasing, I'm very positive about that. But the only thing I would like to add is like that if even the question of, there is a irony in the question of women empowerment itself. It's like telling that this gender is not equal to the men, so we need to empower women. I have seen, I don't want to generalize, but I have seen men, they say, okay, I'm a very liberal person, I let my wife to work, I don't mind if she comes late from work. So even if the question arises, that is, that is shameful for knowledgeable for person who are getting educated. I have seen that even in the people, like NRI people, they are like, okay, my wife is a partner of my business. That's that's a great thing I'm doing for my wife. But why the question is arising? That's my question. That's an irony in itself. That's what I think.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thanks for all your thoughts. We would like to move on to the next topic, but we can always, like, once we finish the major things, if we want to focus on any specific thing, we can always come back and discuss too. Okay. So this question is for Dr. Raju. Dr. Raju, there is an article in Forbes. It was dated September 2014, which states that India spends only about 4.2% of its national GDP towards healthcare goods and services. Now, in US, it's 15%, with only 1/3 of the population. Now, there is, in the same article, it talks about WHO's, World Health Organization's 2000 World Health Report, which says that India's healthcare system ranks at 112 out of 190 countries. And then, according to another paper, Guardian, a staggering 2 million slum children die every year. So this is pretty much similar to what you said earlier. Now, also there is a wide gap between rural and urban populations. About 70% live in rural area. Now, is there anything we could do to transform the healthcare system in India?
Well, most of these problems we all read, not only appearing there, but we hear and see them the moment you are landing in Mumbai to see those things, right? There are 3 books. I don't know how of you, this is again, I'm voracious reader. I want to always read, still non-medical books. We the People by Nani Palkhiwar, because some of the things which we are discussing here is a wonderful panel, and we are all interested to be here this evening to discuss this is wonderful. But the answers to these questions, what Indians can do themselves, or whenever this NRI thing comes, I always get, I went to India, the last trip was just last month. 128th, 129th, some of our hospital people are counting. There are 3 kinds of NRIs. Anybody heard this one? This is a letter to the editor in Mumbai a few years ago. Non-resident Indian, non-required Indian, you know, the moment they criticize and they say, you know, oh, in America we do, our car is like that, our house is like that. Why are you still like this? You know, these are non-required Indians. The third one is, anybody has seen this? Non-relinquished Indians, relinquished. Some of us like it, you know, because for me, India has given incredible medical education, top-notch, class one, world-class education, almost free. But yeah, let me quote this kind of discussion, you know, when you can't stop me because I want to stop, you know, not to go too fast. 3 years ago, I was on a panel in Pravasi, Bharati, you know, the meeting, and Aluwalia, his name, I think he's the planning commission guy. Some people from the audience, very interested audience like, you know, non-resident Indians, made some strong statements about India. You know, they're uncalled for, that strong statement. He said, look, we can do without you all. Sometimes I think that's true. Do you know how many Indians are there in this country?
20 million?
No. 3 million, just 3 million. We are less than 1% of United States population.
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to say 20 million Indians
Outside
are
India.
outside India.
All
Sorry, yes,
over the
yeah, all
world.
over the world, yes.
But
Sorry.
you know, it is still, some of them are, still, a lot of them are still struggling to beat their rights and all that, unlike here. I think we have done, you know, really well. That's the greatness of this country. And India is also very great. Anyway, he said, you're all about 3 million. Even if you don't do all these things, we can make it probably. Ultimately, that's true. You know, Indians can do themselves. I'm never a brightest student of my class. Well, look at you, all of you. You know, some of you might be the brightest and top notch in your class. A lot of you are probably not. Still, the brightest are still in India, and they don't have the climate to really, you know, they're 4 Nobel Prize winners because they came to United States. That's all. This atmosphere, this climate, you know, what we are discussing, universities, it gives. How can we just stimulate that kind of atmosphere? You can get it in the universities. Somebody said even what your real education is after you left the university. That basis, something is happening in the universities. Beyond that, how much you can learn. In this country, they all learn, even in this country, after they leave the university. So, how can we do that? The problems are immense. Nani Palkhiwala book called We the People. The other one is B.S. Naipaul, The Wounded Civilization. Just make a note and read. They're incredible answers, beautifully written. These are all geniuses of the geniuses. And the third one is In Spite of the Gods, The Rise of Modern India. Have you heard of anybody? He's an Englishman, lived in United States, married an Indian girl, lived in Delhi. He's like us, belongs to both the cultures. He can understand, rather than one side, some Indians may comment on United States, some people comment. It's not like that. We understand both the cultures, you know, values. Every country is, you know, values are same. Our values are no better than American values. You know, people always use the word value. I can never understand after living 35 years in United States, living longer in United States than India. I think there are good, the bad, the ugly people are everywhere.
Everywhere, I do not
But
understand.
what we can really do, think about those books and read a little bit. I think makes you to think much more what you can really, you know, subscribe. But even without us, in my opinion anyway, India can do it because the top-notch, brilliant, most of them are still in India.
And I
Somebody contradict, I would like you to listen to that one, you know, yeah.
No, I completely agree with you. I think sometimes we meet someone from a different culture and we just try to make a judgment just because you had a bad experience. There is good, bad and ugly everywhere. I mean, so whatever, sometimes you see some differences, but you can't make a judgment about your country. Someone else on the panel wants to start. Go ahead.
So, what I have seen in India is health is always neglected. They are always given like a second, a third, unless something happens to you, you won't go to a doctor. It's and it's not always a good thing because it's getting accumulated and sometimes it is out of control. So, one thing we have to do is we have to start something like having the regular checkups or something, and that is required. And another thing is like I think, I don't know, it's my experience that we don't give that much importance to exercises and all, and that is, at that time it doesn't affect you. You think, okay, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time, so I don't do it. But when you become old, you start realizing that how those things has affecting you because you didn't exercise enough, you didn't become strong enough. So those are the things we have to consider, and we have to like maybe having one person playing one sport in school compulsory, something like that, which will actually, because if you are exercising and if you are at good health, then you can avoid most of the problems. So I think that is very neglected in India, and probably that's the one thing that can be changed regarding the health.
I'm very glad you brought about preventive health care, because that is something we neglect very much. Sometimes I ask my mom to go and get checked up. She says nothing, I'm okay. And you many times hear some of our friends, they suddenly have to book a ticket to India because their mother or someone passed away. And that's because of the lack of preventive health care.
Heart disease and deaths and is 3 times more common in India than United States,
Yes.
Americans.
Yeah.
3 times
Yeah.
heart disease.
And then I'll give you an option. I'm sorry, I forgot to talk to you. Let me just give one chance, then I'm going to get back to you. Someone wanted to say something.
I'll be brief. As the gentleman said earlier, one of the most severe, widespread health problem in India is hunger. So to give everyone a fair foundation in health, we need to address right to food. To address right to food, we need to address land and farmers' issues, and we also need to prevent the food industry, which poses the #1 threat to people's right to food and right to health.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Arvind.
Yeah.
And sir, yes, go ahead, please. You.
And when she said malnutrition or hunger, recently more than a couple of studies were done. The sanitation is even worse than nutrition or hunger.
Yes.
Because even if you give nutrition to all the midday meals and all that, if the sanitation is bad, that child is still going to die.
And in fact, we wanted to have a separate topic on sanitation too, but because of so many talks, we couldn't do that. Sir, go ahead.
I will just add to what the panel was saying. I was going to talk about the last point Dr. Raju was mentioning. Even in the US, if you look at the history, the health and everything, they had a lot of issues too. So how did it improve? Access to clean water and the sanitation system. So when they improved it, the health tremendously improved. So that's where we can contribute in a big way for people to access clean water, in addition to all the things that were mentioned, like access to say nutritious food, then access to healthcare, basic healthcare. We don't need at the beginning stage where most deaths are happening with say during childbirth or within few months children are dying. So if we give them the basic say healthcare, they can survive in a big number, and then in future if they have the right access to clean water, sanitation, that will help in a big way too.
And I'm glad the Clean India program is going on. I hope it goes on seriously, and hopefully we'll see some change.
I just want to add.
Sure, go ahead, Ravi.
Yeah, for all the students out here who might be